Hi everyone, it's Sarah. I hope you're having a great week so far, even though it's only Tuesday. It's certainly been a bit of an odd week here in the UK. I don't know about you, but we've had Storm Dennis, we had Kiara, now we've had Storm Dennis. So I don't know about you, but that's why I'm a couple of minutes late, because it's just mayhem on the roads, flooding, which we seem to get a lot of with this unusual weather, as Donald Trump calls it. I don't know whether it is unusual, but it's certainly pretty chilly down here. Dark, a bit chilly, and still like really blowy and windy. So wherever you're travelling, whatever you're doing, keep safe and look after yourselves. And also, it's not what I'm going to be talking about this evening, because I don't think I'm the best person to do so. But obviously, I don't know. Some of you, well, it's been all over the media, and I didn't know whether to sort of bring it up or not, because it's actually, Caroline Flack, one of our celebrities in the UK, somebody that I'd watched for a long time on television. And when I used to watch I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here Too in the Jungle, I used to love her just sort of effervescent, bubbly style. And, sometimes there's people you just think, do you know what? I bet you're a good laugh, and we would have had a good night out, and just seemed like a really bubbly person. And it's just so sad to see somebody make the decision, or to sort of take her life as she did. Sometimes there are things where people that you know, and you feel like because social media makes you feel like you're close to everyone and you know them, and it gives you the opportunity to comment, and reality TV and all of that, bringing us much more sort of closer to some of our, some celebrities and things like that. It was just really sort of struck me, really affected me, that somebody that seemed to have, despite her current difficulties and challenges that she's going through, we've all been through, I'm sure many of us on this page, and for myself, I know that I've been through, I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm a coach, but have I been through dark times and tough times? Yes, I have. And, sometimes some of us just can't get through them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if any of you are feeling in a vulnerable place or a difficult place, then please do speak to somebody about it. Speak to the Samaritans, speak to Mind, speak to your friend, speak to a colleague, speak to anyone. Just tell people how you're feeling, and don't be scared to do so. Because, I just feel, when I heard that news, it was just a real shock to me. Somebody that, she'd been going through some stuff, but seemed like a lovely lady that could turn things around. But obviously she had a lot going on in her mind. And just perhaps sharing something with somebody might make you feel better, or just saying, do you know what, I'm not okay. And things are like that sometimes. Life isn't, a straight line. We make decisions, we take decisions, we learn, we move on, we have challenges. So if you are feeling in that way, then please, I just urge you to get any help from Mind, Samaritans, friends, family, anything like that. Please don't stew and think that you can't talk to anyone. And if you want to write to me anonymously about anything that's going on with you, then I'm more than happy to listen. So I just wanted to say that, because it just felt weird not to. Okay, so I'm going to get on with the Facebook Live tonight, which is about something different. Now I've just opened with that. This is all about how you can prepare yourself for a new job, and some tips. I could go on about this all night. There's loads you can do. You hear about these 90-day plans, which was based on what the Roman emperors used to do. So I'm just going to run through a few tips that if you are moving into a new role, be that you're moving into a sideways role, or you are moving to a new organisation, or in the same place in a new function, something different, then here's some things that might set you on the road to success. Okay, now this is obviously, you will have had interviews, you will have asked some questions, you may have had some assessment centres, you may have a really good idea of what the job is about. But really, I think, first tip, don't mess it up. So there you go. I could just stop this video here and say, don't mess it up. But that would be being flippant, and I'm not trying to be flippant. But yeah, don't mess it up. I really do mean that. Don't mess it up. be prepared. So make sure that before you start, you research the company, see what news is going on. This works for interviews as well, actually. These are some of these tips you can use when you're going for interviews for a new role, or you're looking at a sideways move, or you want to talk to your boss about a new area. But research the company, even if it's somewhere that you've been internally. Ask people about, well, hang on a minute, I'm moving to this department. What's this department like? What's the culture? Research some of the people. I don't know about you, but a lot of the organisations that I project work in and do other things with, they have like intranets and things like internal Facebook. I don't know whether you will have had access to those, or whether there's an extranet where you can log on and look at, or even a company internet, to see the company structure. So do some research, have a look at what's out there, have a look on LinkedIn, see who you know. It's amazing how many people I know that sort of start a role and go, oh my gosh, I've just met so-and-so, I forgot she worked here, or she's moved back here after maternity leave, or I know I've got a friend that works in this department. So maybe check up on your network, see who you know, or see who are your second, third or fourth degree contacts in LinkedIn, see who you know in your environment. But LinkedIn's fantastic for things like that. Just do your research, have a look at what the company, if you're feeling a bit nervous, sometimes a little bit of preparation can put us on that solid footing, because it's like, yes, I've done as much as I can, I've done a little bit of homework. So just sign up for company news, have a look at what's happening if they've got an annual report coming out, if they've got results coming out, or just general news flow. What news? Set a Google alert and find out what news is coming along, because then, things, sometimes, particularly in big complex organisations, things can move quite quickly. So if you can go in and feel like, oh, well, I've just heard that there are rumours of this, not that you want to cause rumours, but you feel like you're getting a bit of a temperature for what's happening in the organisation. Maybe look at what journalists are saying, look at what financial analysts are saying to see what the reputation of the company is. If you're in HR, maybe look at Glassdoor. If you're moving into an HR role, what are they saying on Glassdoor? And some of these things are pinch of salt territory, but have a look, see what people are saying about the company. And, just think about what you can do before you start. So, it doesn't have to be extensive research, but just do some research if you feel that's going to help you feel more confident when you go in on day one. Okay, so what about if you've got clear objectives? Then obviously when you get there, really ask your manager to help you define your objectives. And even if you had objectives at interview, say you've been on a notice period for a month or a couple of months, doesn't matter how long, why don't you go in and recheck those objectives, and are there short, medium and long-term goals? Are there short, medium and long-term objectives that you are going to be measured against? Because what you don't want to be doing is going in there all with good intentions and working towards certain goals and objectives that it's like, do you know what, I forgot to tell you, the company's moved on a bit here. Now, any good leader or manager will go through some kind of goal setting, objective setting with you, short, medium, long term, so maybe 30, 60, 90 days. But and every company has its own process, by the way. Some of it's quite systemised, some of it's just agreeing it with your manager. If there's no system for inputting your goals and objectives, I'd actually suggest you kind of, you write it up afterwards and maybe send an email saying, based on our discussion, this is what I understand to be my goals, and keep that in a document so you've got something to refer to, because otherwise it's sort of like, you could just be you're not making it up, but you're not really clear about your destiny and you've got nothing to measure against. So, some companies do have systems, like an actual system where you log goals and you set timelines. It's been a busy day. Some don't. So really sit down with your line manager and work through that. And sometimes don't be surprised if you're in a more mid to senior position, if your line manager says, well, what do you think your goal should be? So be ready for that question, because I got asked that once and I had to think on my feet a little bit. So make sure, you know, that you do get some clarity on those goals, because I would hate for any of you guys to have the success of moving into a new role, moving into another role in your current organisational setting, only to find that you think, oh, I've been doing a brilliant job, and it's like, yeah, actually the company's going in a different direction. So make sure you do that, write it up, have a record of it somewhere, and think about, you know, are there specific technical goals, but are there softer skills that they expect? Are there behaviour goals or values goals? Lots of companies have values like integrity, honesty, courage, curiosity, customer focus, you name it. I bet we've all walked past those posters with these are our values. Now, so you might have specific objectives like deliver X many sales, or increase the team by X, or minimise supplier spend by X, or create this new service. But there may also be, with some organisations, behaviour and values goals. So have a conversation when you get there about, well, what values and behaviours do you expect from me? What gets measured here? Because sometimes different attributes get measured and you want to understand what those are. And actually it can differ department to department. If you're in sales, for example, maybe there is something around challenging your customers. Maybe that's a behaviour that gets measured. If you are in compliance, maybe there's a behaviour around safety and security. You know, different departments may have a different emphasis on different things, but some companies do have an overarching framework for values and behaviours that they are going to assess you on. And ask for, you know, if you're not sure, when you're new in your role, it may not be a day one conversation, but ask about that and say, well, how do I demonstrate that behaviour? What's worked in the past? You know, see if you can get some real concrete, tangible examples of what is measured when it comes to values and behaviours, okay? So there's lots of different objectives, however you want to do it, whether it's in a system, which some companies have, or whether it's a conversation, get that noted down, get that written down, get that clear, so that you know, do you know what? If that comes along, that's not my focus. That's a parking lot job that can wait. These are my core things that I need to focus on. Okay, so at least have a 30-day plan. And for 30 days, you know, I think some of us, I don't know if you've been there, but particularly if it's a step up, we can put ourselves under a lot of pressure to be delivering day one. Now, I am all about the quick win. Don't get me wrong. Back in, you know, my career when I was supplier side, in my earlier career, supplier side or client side, it's like, okay, how can I demonstrate my value? There's nothing like a quick win. So where can you get a quick win that doesn't feel a bit kind of cheesy? Do you know what I mean? It's like a meaningful quick win, as in, do you know what? I've noticed that I'm just pulling examples out of the air. We're spending a lot with this supplier. Maybe if we brought this technology in-house, we could save X amount of money. Or I've noticed that there's some complaints about the staff uniform in this logistics centre. I'd like to investigate that further and then come up with some solutions, as long as it's aligned to your objectives somewhere. But, you know, use some ingenuity, creativity without derailing yourself and how busy and overwhelmed you might be. But are there any little quick wins? But have a 30-day plan. See if you can get a quick win in, a meaningful quick win in, not a kind of I'm going to suck up to the boss quick win, but this is about managing upwards. That's about managing upwards actually and influencing. But 30 days for me is really about learning about people, the organisation, learning a bit more, building relationships, gathering facts, doing your onboarding and training. I mean, some companies will assess you against your ability to complete online or blended learning induction videos within a certain time frame. So make sure you understand if it's an automated system when you've got to do that training by, because sometimes it's like, it gets flagged to your line manager if you haven't completed your training. So do all of that stuff, get it all done, block out time. And really, this is a really, really good time to listen, observe, ask questions and learn. It's very tempting, despite the fact that I've said, see if you can get a meaningful quick win in. It's very easy to think, I've got to go in and impress them. Well, you've already impressed them, because guess what? Congratulations, you've got the job, you've got that move that you wanted. So take your foot off the gas, get those objectives clear. I'll recap what I've said earlier on, but really build those relationships, learn, listen and observe. Find out what the organisation is like. What's the culture like? How do things really get done here? Is it the done thing to walk up to somebody's desk and ask them, or is it more Messenger, Skype, email? Sort of observe, take the temperature of the organisation and see where you may need to adapt. Not to not be yourself, but just to adapt and move to that new culture. Okay? And just ask lots of questions and keep an open mind. And for, whatever you do, try to just be patient with yourself. Take your time. The first 30 days, unless you're walking into a crisis situation, which I have done, where I've walked in and been part of a crisis management team, where it means we need to get together, we need to come up with a plan for this particular situation. I'm still listening, I'm still asking questions, I'm still not speaking all the time in the meetings. I'm absorbing like a sponge so I can do my job properly. There are those situations, but if you can, use this time wisely to take the temperature of the organisation, to ask those questions, okay? So I think it was, I'm trying to think who the quote was from. I think it was actually Richard Branson. I don't often quote him, but listen to everyone you meet, basically, is one of the things that he says, and don't rush to try and meet everyone in your first week or month, but sort of be curious about people, listen, be engaged, as a new player on the team. Sometimes you need to sort of learn the rules that are written and unwritten. So before you start going in, and if your role is going to involve changes, critiquing, changing how things are done, then get to know people, get to know the culture, ask questions, build relationships, i.e. don't upset everyone on day one, at least wait until day 31, I'm kidding. But, before we start jumping in with solutions, let's make sure we've got the temperature of the organisation, because sometimes whilst a lot of the business I've worked in, it is about the numbers, it is about the sales and delivery. Actually, a lot of it is also about relationships, how effective and likeable you are. Likeable by your colleagues, your peers, and especially your line manager. Oh, I forgot to say, when it comes to objectives, don't be scared to ask your manager. Thanks for the... Hello, Andrew. Don't be... Why did I just do that really weird voice then? I don't know, but anyway. So when I talked about objectives earlier on, don't be scared to ask your line manager what their objectives are, because basically their success is your success. So then I have asked that in the past and people have been reluctant to tell me, so I've waited a little bit longer. So maybe wait a little bit, when you come to this objectives discussion, maybe frame it in a softer way than perhaps I did when I was younger, and say, well, look, it really helped me to understand what your objectives are so we can all be successful as a team. Or use the language. Notice your boss's language, their style. Are they a very kind of fast talker, dynamic, or are they more measured, reserved? They want to focus on one thing at a time. Are they more task or people driven? Get to know that person. That's part of this 30 days where, don't sort of put yourself under pressure to come up with a massive plan, okay? Now, I just found a really interesting stat today, and I don't mean to depress you all, because it's blowy and cold here already in the UK, but did you know, and I'm just reading this to make sure I get it right, because you do know I like my stats and my data, studies show that almost half of new hires fail within the first 18 months. Now, why is that? Why is that? Now, that's quite a lot. So I guess from the stuff that I've read, you hear that some people are good at interviewing and unable actually to match up to what the job requires. However, the research, I can't honestly remember the resource, but I saw it when I was researching some stuff for this particular topic about tips to get you ahead in your new job. It's actually about personal chemistry and cultural mismatch. So things that cropped up in this survey where people new into role kind of come a bit unstuck are the ability to accept and implement feedback. So the ability for you as a person to sit and listen and hear that feedback, to ask questions. If you're not given specific examples, to say, well, could you give me an example of what works, what have I been doing, etc. and implement it, implement the feedback, even if you on some level, maybe you feel like it's not right, you don't agree with it. If somebody is a reasonable manager, they're probably giving you that feedback for a reason in terms of why you've come across a certain way. And that could just be nerves. It could be a willingness to please. It could be stress, pressure, problems with the team because you're somebody new. But really be mindful of that, of listening to feedback and implementing it, making sure that you're adapting to the organisation somewhat. Another key piece around this whole personal impact, personal chemistry with people that you work with is understanding how to regulate your emotions. Now, that doesn't mean we're robots. I wish I could do a robot dance now, but I can't. So we're not robots. Things do annoy us. Things do get upset us. So, but I will say if we are hungry, angry, lonely or tired, I don't know about you, but things tend to upset me a little bit more than usual. So just be mindful that you can understand and perhaps read the emotions of others. Have a think about, is this a really good time to pick this up with my manager when they're running into a meeting? Or is my team member so overwhelmed that I need to allow that person to have some space to decompress? So it really is about this emotional intelligence to create the chemistry with the people that you work. Now, we're not going to get that right all the time. It is, human beings are very variable from day to day, depending on what else is going in their life. But if you can help just manage your emotions so that if something does annoy you, upset you, you know what, just take some deep breaths, go for a walk, take some chill time, make sure you're taking breaks, you're drinking water, you're eating well, you're looking after yourself. So just make sure you understand the emotions of others, and also what motivates other people. If you're managing a team, this is part of this 30-day asking questions. Ask questions. Find out about your team. What do they want to do? What are their aspirations? Because you might be making a massive assumption about your team member that isn't really valid. So just be mindful of that. So today I've just covered, as I've said, a few tips around what you can do in your new role, or if you're having a sideways move or an internal move, what you can do to sort of land softly into your new role. So I mentioned about being prepared and doing some research. If you're inside the company, great, have a look and see what's happening on any intranets, or if you're external, have a look at LinkedIn, see who's in the organisation that might be a second or third degree contact. Make sure you've got clarity on your objectives and make sure they're written down somewhere, short, medium and long term, and at the right time ask your boss for their own objectives as well. Sort of think about the right way to say it, think about your boss's style, how they like to be approached, and ask them what their objectives are. Make sure if you've got a team, you've got your structure and your numbers all clearly sorted out. Has anything changed if you've moved into the organisation? Has Fred left and somebody else come in whilst you've been away? Or has something else happened? And again, when it comes to objectives, if you have got a team, what does your boss see the objectives for the team? And then I would actually spend time with the team understanding that and working that through. But that's another video. Objectives, yes, technical skills, but also behavioural skills. What values and behaviours get rewarded? How do you demonstrate that? So have that open conversation with your line manager. Have that 30-day plan in place that isn't about solving all the world's problems in 30 days. It's listening, observing, building relationships. And then what you can do over the second month and the third month, if you've got that luxury of time, and I know sometimes you haven't all been there, is really thinking about, well, where do I make the difference? Let's look at the objectives, because if you've got clarity on the objectives, you know where to prioritise. If you've been listening, observing, looking at the culture, looking how things get done, it's highly likely your objectives are going to be closer to what the organisation needs, okay? And as I mentioned just now, listening and asking questions, and, really having that emotional awareness. So understanding, the behaviours and culture of the organisation, but also, you know, how you can build relationships in the organisations, how you can build alliances with people. You know, is there, for example, some places have an internal Facebook. Is that a good way of getting yourself known and out there without being too braggy, of course? Are there groups you can join? Are there communities you can join? Are there different, you know, some organisations have like specific programs for women leaders. Is there something there that you can contribute to? You know, is there some way within the first 60 days, but 30 days where you can lend a hand as long as it's not taking you off course? Can you do a little quick win like I mentioned? So are there opportunities there? And yeah, exactly, just as I say, behaviour, monitor the behaviours of others, monitor the behaviour in yourself, and make sure you're not being overridden by your emotions. Yes, you know, we're not all robots, but yeah, where can you really, you know, where do you maybe need to regulate your emotions? Where might you be a little bit more vulnerable than you usually are because you're new in your job? And just take some measures, can't speak, to protect yourself against that. So yeah, so there's a few tips for you. There's absolutely gazillions more, even though gazillions I don't think is an actual word. There's lots more. If you would like some more information on how to get flying in your new career, how to sort of fly and land safely in your new role, be that a role outside your organisation or what you're doing now, or moving sideways or upwards in your existing organisation, then get in touch. I also do a weekly e-blast, which is a 2-minute read. If you'd like to receive a copy of that, please drop me a direct message on Facebook, DM, and give me your email address. I won't be spamming you. It's just, you know, if you give me permission to send you that weekly e-blast. It comes out each Friday, and it's literally about a 2-minute read. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, whilst I do talk about some leadership issues on here, I talk a lot more about my leadership and executive work. So head on over there if that's something that interests you. But anyway, wrap up warm. I hope, well, let's see how long Storm Dennis sticks around for. But whatever you're doing, have a great evening. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video, we never know what struggles people are going through, as we've seen in the media and TV this week. And you know, if you can help someone, lend a hand, listen to somebody, even if it's, you know, even if you're busy, just stopping and listening to someone makes all the difference. And if you are somebody that you feel that you're under pressure or you're stressed or you feel you need some help, then there are lots of organisations such as Samaritans, Mind. I'm sure at work they have occupational health maybe, or people that can help you, or a colleague or a friend, because I really believe in the adage that, you know, we've all got different scales of problems, but sometimes we all go through challenges. And I've just found in my experience, yes, sometimes we need to retreat, but actually speaking to someone gets everything from swirling around into our head, and maybe it's just a little step towards things being a little bit better. So I just wanted to say that this evening. But yeah, look after yourself and look after your families and your friends. All right then, have a lovely evening. Goodbye.